KZ Guy 2 here, No Nonsense Know-How. Today I'm going to show you real quick how to put rear shocks in this 2005 BMW M3 E46 convertible. This should carry over to really 97 to 2006 BMW E46 convertibles. This is very easy. Going to keep this real short, so follow through here. Begin by turning your key on, pushing this button here to get the convertible top up into the midway position. This rear flap here will open up, and then you can shut the key off when it's in this position. This will kind of fall down, and then when you turn the key off, and then I put a little strut in here to hold that up. Now get your car jacked up, take both wheels off. Obviously I'm on lift here, so that makes it a little bit easier. Spray down your lower bolts with rust penetrant. One note here, prior to removing these top nuts, take a jack underneath and load up the suspension some, because otherwise, this is gonna kind of fly down here. I had broken springs in mine, so I didn't have to do that. There was no tension at all on those. When this was up in there, they were just kind of flopping in there. But if you have good springs in yours, before removing the top nuts, jack up on the bottom first. Come up in here, remove these two plastic plugs, and then take a 13mm deep socket with an extension. Remove the two nuts in each hole, well, one nut in each hole. And then I used a magnet to fish the nut out. Be very careful when taking them off, because if you drop it down on the front there, it will fall down a long hole down there. When you're putting these back on, use the paper trick by putting a piece of paper over the nut and then push it on the socket, and then it holds it on there, for you to be able to thread that on without dropping the nut. And come down underneath. You can get a pry bar on here on this mount, loosen this up. It's always a good idea to replace the shock mounts at the same time. And as you can see, this bump stop here is actually all ripped up too, and that's what holds this up. On this side, we can see this one's in much better condition, so if yours look like that, you might be all right, but if they're ripped up, definitely replace them. Now remove your lower bolt, gonna be an 18mm. And you're out. Now compare your new shock to the old one, make sure they look the same. Pry off this rubber cap up here, and then we're gonna transfer over our parts. Of course, we're gonna replace the rubber mount. I'm using an impact gun on this 16mm, but if you don't have one, you can hold some pliers on here and use a wrench on this. Real pain in the butt to do it that way. Much easier to just zip it off. Take note which way this goes on. It goes on with the concave side like that, see that dished up. And their old mount actually seems to be all right, but definitely a good idea to replace these every time because they get noisy. I'm going to transfer over this gasket here to the new one because that doesn't have it on there. And this seems to still be in decent shape. And if the bump stop and plastic cover is in good condition, you can just take that off the old one and slip it right on a new one, just like that. Slip your mount on, washer on, and then put your nut on. You really should replace this. I don't have a new one with this, so I just put a little Loctite on there, and I'm going to zip it down. Good enough. Put your rubber cap back over this thing. After working that around with a screwdriver, I was able to seat that all the way down like that. I like to rub a little grease on the lower bolt to prevent that from seizing up in the future. And then put the bolt back in the same way it came out. It came out with it being on the square side here, and this side was against the lower control arm. So at this point, I'm going to move on to doing my springs because these are broken. Doing these lower springs was seriously cake. I removed these two 10mm bolts off of the suspension sensor just as a precaution. And then I took a pry bar. You could pry the old one out, no problem. And then just basically wedge a new one in. I used this long pry bar, and after seating the top, I was able to just pry on the bottom and just shove that right into place. Just make sure the top of this spring is actually smaller than the bottom. So you got to make sure you get this, the smaller part on the top with this damper up here. On these rubber dampers, make sure to index your spring properly where it was sitting before. When you're slipping these back in, just make sure that rubber makes it past the steel body without getting pinched in there. And then holding it with one hand, come up here, got your paper trick on the nut, and thread your nut back on there. After you get those top nuts tightened, you're going to find it necessary to come under here with a jack and jack this up until your lower bolt is lined up with the hole. Thread that down in there. Make sure not to cross thread it. Very easy to do. It's going to be a problem if you do. So do the same thing on the other side. Get this all buttoned up, and I think I showed you enough that you really need to know. I don't think you probably even watched it this far. I'll try and put a link down below for some shocks on Amazon if you want to purchase those. Until next time, this is KZ Guy 2, No Nonsense Know How. Hope you enjoy your day. Keep on living the dream. I'll see ya.